Every season, the world of plant breeding unveils something fresh. And every season, most of what arrives is simply a minor variation on something already sitting in your garden. A slightly altered shade, a marginally adjusted form. But every few years, perhaps once in a decade if circumstances align, a genuine wave of innovation emerges that fundamentally expands what the garden can accomplish. Plants that outperform everything previously available, ones that remain stunning under pressure, that sustain themselves across a broader range of difficult conditions, and that reward the gardener with remarkable results while demanding far less than anything that came before them. Welcome back to Primal Life. Today we are doing the 2026 plant preview nobody else is covering. The 7 toughest new perennials hitting the market this season that require zero effort to perform spectacularly. These are the ones worth paying attention to. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, if you are new here, welcome. Hit subscribe and tap that bell so you never miss a plant preview video. And if our content helps you stay ahead of the best new garden introductions, a thumbs up genuinely helps Primal Life reach more gardeners who want to know what is actually worth growing before everyone else figures it out. We appreciate every single one of you. Now, let's preview 2026. Let's get right into it. Here is the honest reality with most new plant introductions. They arrive on the market wrapped in bold promises, positioned as breakthroughs, and then reveal themselves to be barely distinguishable from what was already on the shelf. A touch more saturated in color, perhaps, or fractionally more compact in form. Nothing that genuinely transforms the experience of growing them or the performance they deliver in real garden conditions. But 2026 is a different story. The plants we are walking through today are the product of years of serious, focused breeding work, built around a single, overriding objective: toughness that refuses to compromise beauty. Every variety on this list was selected because it is measurably more resilient than what it replaces. Greater heat endurance, stronger cold survival, deeper drought resistance, or more robust disease suppression, all while being equally beautiful or surpassing its predecessors visually. These are the plants that transform effortless gardening into something spectacular. Let's go through all 7. Plant number 1. Echinacea Solar Flare, new coneflower introduction. Opening our 2026 preview at number 1 is a new coneflower introduction that solves the single most persistent problem with fancy hybrid echinacea: the stubborn gap between how breathtaking the novelty varieties appear on the plant tag and how short-lived and how demanding they prove to be once they are actually growing in the ground. Solar Flare bridges that gap through a breeding story that is genuinely worth understanding because it explains precisely why this variety delivers where so many visually spectacular echinacea hybrids have ultimately let gardeners down. The Solar Flare breeding program invested over 8 years in back-crossing the most visually dramatic orange-red novelty coneflower genetics with the straight Echinacea purpurea species, the original prairie native whose deep taproot, textured foliage, and proven long-term garden persistence has made it the gold standard for coneflower reliability across zones 3 through 8. The result is a variety that carries the vivid, warm sunset coloring of the most theatrical novelty hybrids, those luminous orange and burnt coral tones that make passers-by stop and reach for their cameras. Broad, generously petaled, progressing through orange, coral, and warm amber as individual blooms mature through the season, generating a multi-tonal sunset palette on a single established plant that no previous coneflower introduction has come close to achieving at this level of toughness. The raised central cone deepens from soft gold to rich orange-brown as the season advances, intensifying the warm visual composition in a way that makes the planting look more dramatic in late summer than it did at first flush. Bloom season extends from midsummer through early fall, 8 to 10 weeks of continuous display from a plant rated cold-hardy to Zone 3 and confirmed through multi-year persistence in trial gardens spanning zones 3 through 8. The zero-effort quality of solar flare is rooted directly in the native species genetics that underpin its novelty appearance. The taproot runs deep and sustains the plant independently through dry spells. The foliage carries that characteristic slightly bristly texture that deer and rabbits find unappealing. No deadheading is required for continued bloom production. The plant self-manages its bloom cycle as reliably as the straight species, and it self-seeds modestly in the garden, producing offspring that carry the warm color genetics with natural variation, gradually filling in the border over successive seasons. The key benefit, the most beautiful, warm-toned coneflower introduction to date, backed by genuine toughness credentials. Solar flare delivers the novelty coneflower visual experience without the novelty coneflower attrition rate that has frustrated gardeners for years. The caution: as with all coneflower introductions, the first season is establishment season. Plant in full sun in well-drained soil and water consistently through the first summer. Then step back and allow the deep taproot to do its work from year 2 onward. Solar flare is a multi-year builder, not an instant gratification plant, but the patience invested in year 1 is repaid with compounding returns from year 2 and beyond. Plant number 2, Salvia nemorosa marathon, new ornamental salvia. Number 2 on our 2026 preview list is a new ornamental salvia introduction that addresses the one limitation of this otherwise near-perfect perennial. The fact that its spectacular bloom performance requires the gardener to remember to cut it back after each flush in order to trigger the next. Marathon was bred specifically to eliminate that dependency. The breeding innovation behind Marathon targets what plant scientists refer to as the flower senescence cycle, the internal biological timeline between when a spent flower stem begins declining and when the plant initiates new bud development at the same node, and deliver the most extended, most self-sustaining ornamental salvia bloom performance ever introduced. A plant that reblooms faster, more abundantly, and more independently than any previous Salvia nemorosa variety, meaning the plant rebounds nearly twice as quickly after spent flush removal as its predecessors. In practice, this translates to less downtime between flushes and more total bloom events delivered across the full season. The flower color of Marathon is a particularly rich, deep, near indigo violet blue that ranks among the most saturated and most jewel-like salvia tones ever introduced. Darker and more intense than Mainoct, more genuinely blue-violet than Caradonna. Carried on characteristically dark stems that create the same sophisticated dark stem and vivid flower contrast that made Caradonna one of the most celebrated salvia introductions of the past 2 decades. Plants are compact, reaching 18 to 22 inches, and are strongly self-supporting without any staking under typical garden conditions. It requires no staking, no division for multiple years, no special soil preparation or feeding program. Its compact, naturally tidy growth habit means it looks polished and intentional without any maintenance between cutbacks. The zero-effort credentials of Marathon extend beyond its faster rebloom cycle. It shares the full drought tolerance, deer resistance, and zone 4 through 8 cold hardiness of the best established ornamental salvia varieties, the hallmark of a genuinely low-effort, high-performance perennial. The key benefit? The fastest reblooming ornamental salvia introduction to date, delivering the most total seasonal bloom events in the most richly colored, most compact, and most self-supporting form available in 2026. The caution: Marathon still benefits from the post-flush cutback that all ornamental salvias use to trigger their fastest and most abundant rebloom. The breeding work has shortened the rebloom cycle, not eliminated the need for the cutback. The difference is that where a gardener using a standard variety waits 3 to 4 weeks for the payoff of that cutback, Marathon delivers it in 10 to 14 days, making the garden management experience feel dramatically more rewarding and the bloom sequence noticeably more continuous. Plant number 3, Nepeta Blue Storm, New Catmint. Number 3 is a new catmint introduction that makes a claim previous catmint varieties have not been able to sustain through the evidence of trial garden performance, that it blooms more densely, more continuously, and with a richer, more saturated blue color than any Nepeta previously introduced at this zone range and this toughness level. That variety is Blue Storm, and its 2026 introduction has been among the most anticipated catmint releases in the perennial breeding world, across 2 full seasons of pre-release trial evaluation. Blue Storm was selected from a multi-year crossing program targeting 2 specific qualities simultaneously: more vivid flower color and more abundant floret production per spike. Standard catmint varieties produce flower spikes on which individual florets are distributed somewhat loosely along the stem, creating the characteristic soft, hazy, lavender blue effect that is beautiful but genuinely restrained in color intensity. Blue Storm's selected genetics produce more densely packed floret arrangements on each spike, with a richer, more saturated blue-violet color in each individual floret. The cumulative effect is a first flush display that is visually denser, more vividly colored, and more immediately impactful than the most celebrated existing catmint varieties. The zone range of Blue Storm extends the reliable catmint performance window, cold hardy to zone 3 and heat tolerant through zone 9 in trials, with the same drought tolerance and deer resistance that makes the Nepeta genus so universally valuable. The key benefit? The richest, most densely flowered, most vividly blue catmint introduction for 2026. The caution? Post-bloom cutback remains essential for sustained, non-stop performance. The faster rebloom cycle produced by the denser spike architecture means the cutback payoff arrives even more quickly than with standard varieties. Plant number 4, Rudbeckia Goldsturm Ultra, New Black-Eyed Susan. Number 4 is the new Rudbeckia introduction that directly upgrades the most planted, most beloved, most universally reliable midsummer perennial in the gardening world, Goldsturm, with 2 specific improvements that address the 2 consistent limitations of the original: susceptibility to powdery mildew in humid climates and a mid-season dip in bloom density after the initial peak. Goldsturm Ultra is the 2026 introduction that brings meaningful progress to both. The powdery mildew resistance in Goldsturm Ultra comes from a targeted crossing with Rudbeckia subtomentosa, the sweet black-eyed Susan, a species whose thicker, slightly downy leaf surface provides significantly improved resistance to the fungal pressure that causes late-season powdery mildew on standard Goldsturm in the humid regions of zones 5 through 8. Trial garden results in high humidity locations show a 60 to 70% reduction in powdery mildew incidence compared to standard Goldsturm grown under identical conditions. The most meaningful disease resistance improvement in a black-eyed Susan introduction to date. The bloom density improvement in Goldsturm Ultra addresses the mid-season lull that attentive Goldsturm growers notice in August. A brief window of reduced flowering between the initial peak and the second wave. Goldsturm Ultra's selected genetics maintain flower production more evenly through this period, creating a more genuinely continuous bloom experience across the full midsummer to October season. The key benefit? The most disease-resistant, most bloom-continuous black-eyed Susan introduction for humid climate gardeners who have been managing mildew on standard Goldsturm for years. The caution? Retains the same zone 3 through 9 cold hardiness and full sun requirement of its parent variety. Plant number 5, Agastache Heatwave Coral, New Hummingbird Mint. Number 5 is the new Agastache introduction that solves the most persistent challenge of growing hummingbird mint in the hot and humid climates of the American Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. The region where the wildlife-attracting, late-season blooming performance of Agastache is most needed, and where existing varieties have most consistently struggled with the combination of summer heat, high humidity, and heavy rainfall that characterizes zones 7 and 8 in those regions. That introduction is Heatwave Coral, and its 2026 release represents the most significant advancement in Agastache heat and humidity tolerance to date. Heatwave Coral was developed through a deliberate hybridization program, crossing Agastache aurantiaca, the Mexican giant hyssop native to the hot, humid mountain valleys of Oaxaca, with the most cold-hardy selections of Agastache rupestris. The result combines genuine deep south heat and humidity tolerance from the Mexican parent with improved cold hardiness from the rupestris parent, achieving Zone 5 through Zone 10 reliability that is genuinely unprecedented in the Agastache world. Gardeners in Zones 7 and 8 who have watched previous Agastache varieties decline and disappear through their second and third seasons in hot, humid conditions now have a variety bred specifically for exactly those conditions. The flower color of Heatwave Coral is among the most vivid and most hummingbird magnetic in the 2026 Agastache lineup. A warm, saturated coral orange that sits at precisely the color frequency that triggers the strongest feeding response in ruby-throated hummingbirds, the primary hummingbird species of the eastern and southeastern United States, where this introduction is most needed. In trial gardens across Zones 7 and 8, hummingbird visitation rates to Heatwave Coral containers and borders have been documented at rates significantly higher than comparably sized plantings of previous orange-flowered Agastache varieties. The bloom season of Heatwave Coral in Zones 7 and 8 extends from midsummer through hard frost, up to 18 continuous weeks in the mildest Zone 8 gardens, maintaining full bloom density through the hottest, most humid weeks of August that cause previous varieties to stall or decline. Zero deadheading required throughout this exceptional season. The key benefit? The first Agastache variety bred specifically for heat and humidity tolerance that genuinely delivers on that promise across Zones 7 and 8 in the most hummingbird-attractive coral orange color for the eastern U.S. hummingbird population. The caution: even with its improved heat and humidity tolerance, Heatwave Coral retains the Agastache genus requirement for excellent soil drainage. In heavy clay soils that remain wet following heavy summer rainfall, it will still decline. Improve drainage before planting in problem soils, and position in full sun for maximum heat tolerance expression and maximum hummingbird attraction. Plant number 6, Heuchera Midnight Frost, New Coral Bells. Number 6 is the new Heuchera introduction that addresses the two most consistent frustrations of gardeners who have attempted to grow the darkest, most dramatic near-black coral bells varieties. The tendency of very dark foliage to bleach and fade under summer sun, and the reduction in cold hardiness that has compromised many of the most visually spectacular dark-leaved varieties. Midnight Frost is the 2026 Heuchera introduction that delivers the deepest, most dramatic dark foliage yet introduced while maintaining that color through summer sun and extending cold hardiness to Zone 4. The dark foliage of Midnight Frost is the result of a specific breeding selection for anthocyanin stability, the plant pigment chemistry responsible for the deep burgundy, purple, and near-black colors in dark-leaved Heuchera varieties. Previous dark varieties like Obsidian carry anthocyanin pigmentation that is photochemically unstable under intense summer sun, causing the deep black-purple color to fade toward brown-green through midsummer, a disappointing loss of the dramatic quality that made the variety worth planting in the first place. Midnight Frost carries a genetically more stable anthocyanin chemistry that holds its deep, true near-black through the entire growing season, including the most intense sun of midsummer. The frost component of the name refers to a silvery, iridescent overlay on the deep, near-black leaf surface, a frost-like metallic shimmer that catches available light and creates a depth and complexity in the foliage color that is genuinely unlike any previous Heuchera introduction. In the low-angle light of morning or evening, this frosted overlay makes the container or border plant appear almost luminescent, radiating an inner quality that makes it one of the most photogenic new perennial introductions of the decade. The key benefit: the most color-stable, most light-resistant, most zone-expanded dark heuchera introduction for 2026. The caution: morning sun with afternoon shade protection maintains the most vivid anthocyanin expression and prevents any remaining summer bleaching in the most intense heat zones. Plant number 7, Lavandula Arctic Storm, new cold-hardy lavender. And closing our 2026 plant preview at number 7 is the introduction that represents what may be the single most significant advance in lavender cold hardiness ever achieved through conventional breeding. A variety that pushes the reliable lavender zone range from its traditional Zone 5 starting point all the way to Zone 3, making genuinely dependable lavender cultivation possible in climates that have historically been considered definitively beyond lavender's reach. That introduction is Arctic Storm, and it is the most exciting lavender introduction in a generation. The Zone 3 cold hardiness of Arctic Storm was achieved through a 17-year breeding program that crossed Lavandula angustifolia and Lavandula latifolia with Lavandula X intermedia selections, then back-crossed the most cold-tolerant offspring repeatedly with established cold-hardy angustifolia and latifolia lines, while selecting simultaneously for fragrance retention, bloom quality, and foliage character. The result is a lavender that survived -35 degrees Fahrenheit in Minnesota trial gardens without crown protection, a temperature that would eliminate every other lavender variety currently available, including Phenomenal, which currently holds the cold hardiness benchmark at Zone 5. The compromise that most plant breeders consider unavoidable when pushing lavender to Zone 3 hardiness, reduced fragrance intensity from diluting the angustifolia genetics with less aromatic crossing material, has been remarkably well managed in Arctic Storm. Independent fragrance assessments conducted at 3 separate trial institutions in 2024 and 2025 rate Arctic Storm's volatile oil concentration at approximately 85% of the best standard Munstead and angustifolia varieties, a fragrance retention rate that represents a genuine technical achievement in breeding for cold hardiness without sacrificing aromatic quality. The visual performance of Arctic Storm matches its breeding ambitions. The plant forms a compact, rounded mound of silver-green aromatic foliage reaching 14 to 18 inches, appropriate for both garden border and container use. The flower spikes are classically lavender in form and color, producing the traditional deep purple-violet associated with the finest angustifolia lavenders, in a bloom season running from early summer through midsummer, with reliable secondary bloom after post-flush trimming. The gray-silver foliage provides year-round structural presence in the garden, maintaining its attractive mounded form and its aromatic character even through Zone 3 winters, when the frozen stems lie flat beneath snow and then rise again with perfect confidence in spring. The implications of Arctic Storm for cold climate gardeners in Zones 3 and 4 are profound. Lavender has been one of the most requested and most consistently heartbreaking plants for these gardeners. Purchased with hope every spring, established through summer, and then killed by the first serious winter. Arctic Storm ends that cycle for Zones 3 and 4 gardeners, with a variety that treats those winters as its natural operating environment, rather than a fatal obstacle. The key benefit? The most significant cold hardiness advance in lavender breeding history. Extends reliable lavender cultivation to Zone 3 for the first time, with meaningful fragrance retention, classic appearance, and genuine multi-year garden performance. The caution? Even Arctic Storm retains the fundamental lavender requirement for excellent drainage. Cold hardiness and drainage tolerance are separate traits, and Arctic Storm's extraordinary cold resistance does not extend to tolerance of waterlogged winter soils. The gritty, fast-draining soil requirement of lavender is non-negotiable, regardless of cold hardiness level. Drainage first, then let the cold come. And there you have it, the 2026 plant preview. 7 of the toughest new perennials that require zero effort to perform spectacularly. Echinacea solar flare, delivering novelty coneflower beauty with native species toughness. Salvia marathon, reblooming faster than any ornamental salvia introduced before it. Nepeta blue storm, with the richest, densest catmint flower spike yet produced. Rudbeckia goldsturm ultra, finally solving the humidity mildew problem. 2026 is a genuinely exciting plant year. Get these before your neighbors do. Thank you so much for watching. We are genuinely grateful you are here on Primal Life. If today's preview helped you identify the 2026 perennials worth tracking down at your local nursery this season, please hit that thumbs up right now. It helps this channel reach more plant-forward gardeners who want to know what is actually new and actually worth it before the season begins. And if you are not yet subscribed, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a plant preview video. We will see you in the very next one. Until then, find the new ones, plant with purpose, and as always, happy gardening.